Welcome to SheRises Stories of Resilience Global Conference, a groundbreaking event where the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs come together to ignite your passion and drive. Join us for electrifying conversations and riveting stories from visionary men and women who have redefined their lives and businesses with extraordinary resilience and purpose. Experience firsthand how these remarkable individuals have triumphed over adversity, sparking innovation and compassion to create transformative insights and profound impact. This is your chance to be inspired, empowered, and transformed. I'm your host for this event, Kelly Boyer, and today I'm excited to present Kenji Kumara. Kenji Kumara is a channel for ascended energies, a visionary and activator of and for higher consciousness. He works as a transformational messenger, reaching and guiding people from every corner of the globe to new earth consciousness and personal and planetary ascension. The results have been profound, with many who have overcome major difficulties, others who have experienced transformational change in multiple consciousness shifts. And the best part is that it's experienced effortlessly with Kenji's style of ease and grace. Known for his unique ability to guide people into deep meditation with his gentle activations, he keeps it simple and effortless as the doorways to source connection are open, the I am God self-invoked, and in a loving manner, people are shifted into higher awareness and self-mastery. It has been his personal joy to help people understand their life's purpose and claim their true identity. Kenji resides in Sedona, Arizona, and offers local retreats, workshops, wave sessions, and sacred vortex hikes. Today, we're going to be talking about mastering obstacles along the spiritual path. Kenji, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. And I'm going to dive right in because I've noticed that in just learning a little bit about you, that you have faced significant challenges throughout your life, from childhood illness to near-death experiences. And I'm just curious, how have these experiences shaped your understanding of resilience and the concept of personal transformation?
Well, to make a very long story short, as I review my life for this interview, and this applies really to everyone. Back in the day when I was a seeker, and I started seeking in my first year in college at age 23 in Santa Cruz, California. And I had been a lone seeker for much of my life. In other words, I didn't have a significant other or family necessarily to help me through all my transitions in life. But I did know inwardly as a teenager that I wanted to learn about healing. And specifically, I wanted to learn about how Jesus healed and how Buddha meditated. And so my focus has been just that for, well, ever since age 23. And I did my search basically with very little money. So the money part was very challenging for me. In fact, there were long periods of time in my early history where I had very little clothes, I had very little money, I had driving around in used cars. And it's not like I was in poverty, but I had to watch like how I spent my money as far as my studies go. But looking back, we have angels that watch over us ever since our first day on the planet. And as I'm looking back at my life through all these traumatic times I've had with illnesses, psychic challenges, spiritual challenges, emotional challenges, all that most people go through in this lifetime, even though on a physical level, I felt like during my Dark Night of the Soul episode that lasted years, I felt I was pretty much alone and didn't know how I was going to get my act together. I really didn't. And I believe at that time that I didn't have enough skills to like create a business, create a practice, although I loved working with people. And so I want people to know that in these times where you may feel alone and get anxious and depressed, that there's an overriding presence that's always around you, called your guardian angels, called beings from other places and other dimensions and realities that watch over us, that comfort us. And one thing that my friends used to tell me as they would see me go through my seeking was that they would say, "Well, I don't know how you made it through that, Kenji, but normally anybody else would have died. It would have just given up and like quit." But there was something in me that never quit, that never thought about leaving the planet, but I never knew for a long time how I would get my act together. And so, to give you another example, in 2007, I was asked to go teach in Santa Fe, and I was living in Seattle at the time. So that was the start of my, I guess, becoming known and getting the work out into other places than where I lived. But I had no business sense. I didn't know about sponsors. I kind of just made it up in my mind, like what would be the best arrangement for somebody that would sponsor me to sponsor a training, and I would go there and do that whole traveling thing. But it always seemed to work out. Once I put the idea out there that I need this and I need that, it just would kind of formulate, would begin to like coalesce and manifest. So I guess what I'm saying is, for those of you that are wanting to start a business or a practice, yeah, you start from literally nothing. Like I had no business sense back in 2007. I had no idea about websites. I didn't know you had to hire a team. I don't know about webmastering. So on a technical level, I've had to hire out for that. And I've gone through like tons of web teams since 2007. Finally ended up with the right one, but it took all these years. So I guess what I would like to share with people is that, you know, you'll go through people in your life that are helping you with your business. And, you know, it may take you a while to find exactly the right team that are going to stay with you for a long time. So sometimes it's trial and error. But what I will say is that when you put out in prayer and meditation exactly what you would like to manifest, that's what you do every day as your practice in your meditation. You want to feel, imagine, and feel how you want your life to be, how you want the people around in your life to be. In other words, we can create everything in our life through our awareness of knowing who we are, how we serve, and where we want to go in life. But again, not everything is always given in the beginning. So sometimes it's like putting pieces together like a jigsaw puzzle. Oh, this fits here. Oh, that doesn't fit there. Oh, I've got to trust my intuition and not hire that person, but maybe this person. So it's a big learning, and it's okay to fail, if you want to say it that way, to fall down, because you're going to get back up again. But I guess the main thing is, if you have a vision, so your vision is something that you were born with. It's your calling. So what is your calling? And once you find your calling, stick with it and don't give up. So that's a short answer to a very long question.
Well, I love it that you talked about not giving up, because I think sometimes especially when we're trying to do a business that's not the conventional type, and we run into resistance, that I think the instinct is to give up, that this isn't for me, this isn't what I'm supposed to do. So following your calling uh, is such a motivation, it's such a motivator to just keep going, because you're right, you will go through a lot of different people, a lot of different trial and error. but it's your calling, and that's what's pulling and driving you. So I really appreciate you talking about that. I actually want to go back to, you talked about prayer and deep meditation. And in your work as a transformational messenger, you guide individuals in deep meditation. And I just was wondering if you could just share how this practice has really facilitated healing and self mastery for not only for yourself, but for also those you work with.
Okay, given the nature of the earth changes right now and energies in the atmosphere, not only of our country, but the whole world, and it does appear on one level that everything's collapsing and in chaos, which is true. That's one reality. But I want to get back to your calling just for a little bit. So your gift, your spiritual gifts are in your calling, and your calling has been with you since you were a little person, growing up, navigating the world, adapting, etc. So you have to trust that. And in your calling are the skill sets that you need to manifest that. So just understand that when you tap into your calling, in other words, it's something that you got to do no matter what, and no matter what anybody says. That's your calling. So it could be in any form of healing work or coaching or counseling or therapy, but it doesn't even have to be anything in the was considered the spiritual arts. Whatever you do in your life that you do very well, that you love to do, that brings you joy, is your calling. So not everybody is meant to be a healer, but healers are everywhere. You just look around the world and everybody's fulfilling a purpose to the degree that they can do that. And everybody expresses in some way a healing quality, even though you may not be a so-called healer, right? You could be a parent raising kids. You could be a caregiver to your parents. You could be a manager of a company. It doesn't matter what you do in your life. As long as you stay with your calling and you trust it, and that brings you joy and peace. So the main thing is, whatever brings you joy, really brings you joy and excitement, inspiration, that's your calling. So it may not be what your parents wanted you to be, lawyer, doctor, right? Could have been something very different. So, okay, getting back to your question, dear.
Sure. Well, actually, I do have another question. If we
Yeah.
could kind of stay on the topic of calling, um, do you believe, because we're born with our calling, right? That is our purpose. That is what we're here to do, and it does bring us joy. Do you believe that when, even if we were to kind of walk off the path of what our calling is, do you believe that it does pull us back on to what it is that we're supposed to do?
Yeah, because if you get unhappy, if you're unhappy with something, or you're bored with something, or you're have a hard time dealing with staff and managers, etc., which is most of the world, really. Well, that's a sign. But here's the thing: you can look at it two ways, whether you're in a happy situation or not, as regarding your career. You can deal with it and make the best of it, or you can shift and change and move out of that. Either way, it's going to work out in the end, because you'll always come back to your calling, because you're going to learn at some point, I've got to trust this knowing that I have, and I've got to make this change. I've got to step forward in spite of my nervousness and like my doubt and like, how am I going to get this done? I don't know people. I don't have a lot of money. If I started with literally no money, you guys can do that too. And I don't know how. I look back at my life and I go, I don't know how I made it through all these situations. I swear there was miracles everywhere that got me out of these predicaments, shall we say. But I never gave up, even though during the dark night of the soul, and that was for me at least 12 years, if not longer. And that was probably maybe 14 years. So I'll give you an example. I went homeless because of a house fire when I was staying with my parents. We had a suspicious house fire. So eventually, my dad went his way and I went my way. Mom was passed on at that point, and I had very little money. And I was a little bit in post-traumatic stress from the house fire. Um, it got to a point where nobody would put me up anymore, and I was homeless for like 6 months in the Bay Area. People, strangers, would put me up for like 2 weeks at a time, or offer their cabin in Sonora to go stay at, or put me up in their extra bedroom. For 6 months that happened, and then it all stopped. And I had one choice, at least in my awareness, I had one choice. I can either just kind of like, well, I'm going to go up to Mount Shasta because that's a very sacred mountain, and I know that area. I'm going to go up there and I'm either going to make it or I'm going to die on the mountain. I will make my ascension, or whatever you want to call it, on the mountain, but I'm not going to like struggle in the Bay Area with all this noise and pollution and people and traffic and no money. So I went up there. I got saved in the last moment of finding a place to stay for really cheap, rent wise. I stayed up there for 2 years, but I went up there with one idea. I'm either going to make it or I'm going to die. In other words, I'll constantly go on the mountain, lay my body in my sleeping bag, and just stay there until I depart. That was the idea. There was no like any other way. It was just going to be this way or that way. And I made it. And I went to a lot of debt, which I thought I would never, ever have to do. I went homeless, and which I thought I would never experience that. So I experienced in my midlife things that I never thought I would experience, but somehow I made it. And I'm going to give you a miracle story. So I'm going up to Seattle because I was guided by a certain archangel to go up to Seattle. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go there. It's too far north and I don't know anybody. But I did with my belongings in a U-Haul truck. But I had a little yard sale and only one person came, bought some stuff. And she says, oh, by the way, I know someone in Seattle. Here's her number. Here's her name and number, and go look her up. And so I did when I got up there. And then when we met, she happened to be a leader of a monthly spiritual circle in the neighborhood she would do. So that was like my spiritual energy connection, right? And so I says, oh yeah, so-and-so from Mount Shasta gave me your name and your number to look you up. She goes, I don't know this person. I don't know anybody in Mount Shasta. I don't know this person that you mentioned here. So I'm thinking, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. Maybe this person was like a guardian angel. You know what I mean? That appeared when I needed information and then was gone. Poof. So that was really, it was odd, but it wasn't surprising to me that she didn't know this a person in Mount Shasta, but she got me to meet her, which she led me to this woman that offered to put me up for 6 months for free in her spare bedroom. See, so that's how I began to make it in Seattle. But I would have not foreseen how that would all evolve, right? But I trusted. I had one name going up to Seattle from this woman, so I called her. And that was the start of it. And then I began to realize again that we're taken care of. I'll give you another fascinating story. This is for those that are maybe struggling with money. So before my dad passed, well, after my dad passed, I found out that he had a small investment in this obscure oil company out of Montana or Idaho or someplace. And he had like 500 shares at 10 cents a share or something like that. It came out to $500. So I had the company send me monthly statements. So we started out at 500. And then it goes, the next month it goes to 700, and then it goes to 900, and then it goes to 1300. And then it kept going up. Believe this or not, it went from 500 to $30,000 in less than a year, maybe 6, 7, 8 months. And so I cashed out pretty much almost at 30,000 because I heard or I felt a voice say cash out today. So I did. And I checked the next day and the stock started to go down, and it went down, 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 down to where it was in the very beginning, like pennies per stock. And that got me through about 2 years or so, 2.5 years of still being in debt, but being able to pay my expenses. So who knew? An old obscure oil stock goes from 500 to 30,000. Talk about a return on investment.
Well, everything that you're sharing with us it's really all about just trusting, right? Just trusting what the magnificence of the universe. And when you really wholeheartedly let go and you genuinely ask without limitation, it really does come back in like you said, miracles. And I I really feel like that's part of like I think that's part of the major part of when we want to step into doing this business, when we just really want to step into healing people from a heart of service, right? It's just really trusting that what's provided, that what you need will be provided for you. And you've given beautiful examples of that. And trust is hard, but when you let go and you allow it to, you allow it to come in and you allow it to do what it's, really designed to do, beautiful things can happen. So yeah, thank you for sharing those stories. They're magnificent. So and very encouraging too. So thank you for sharing that. Um, you know, I was going to go back to the question about about how you work with people in regards to your meditation, but you mentioned so many things about just your all the experiences that you've had with your own resiliency. So I think I'm going to go in that direction if that's okay.
Sure.
But um you do offer really beautiful retreats, and just you just foster a sense of community there where you are in Sedona. And I was wondering if you could just kind of explain that a little bit more, and how you help people, and how you help bring forward, or how you can help them recognize their resiliency and how to move forward in that, in what you offer.
Well, there's a couple of things. First, we have to understand that the old world is dying, and it's not our job to save it. So usually healer types have to get over to this Messiah complex, right, of healing the planet, healing the suffering of humanity, right? Because really it goes to working on ourselves as the primary focus of our spiritual practice. And then the healing is just a byproduct. It's a manifestation of how you work on yourself on a daily basis, how you work with your unconscious patterns and your resistance and your doubts and everything. And it's not to say that at some point you won't have them, but it's using the example of Yeshua or Jesus, of where symbolically there's an aspect in his life where he had to face the unknown. He had to face sort of like what his mission was going to do, how it was going to evolve in a sense. So he had to work through his self-doubts. He had to work through his not knowing necessarily. His faith was tested in a sense. And we're also in that same, how shall we say, a place of, okay, let's get back a little bit. So if there's an understanding that the old world is dying, so a new earth can be born. If we understand that what we've been stuck in up to this point right now, as we're talking, may have been not the real thing, and that there is a place within us that knows what is really real versus what is false, what is an illusion. So think of it this way. For right now, because everybody is tapped into the news and what's going to be happening for the rest of the year into next year, and there's a lot of unknowns, planetary wise, galactic level wise, and personally as well. That if we meditate and ask to be shown what is true for us in every level of our existence, our consciousness, we will make it through this without getting trapped in a sense. So think of it this way. Remember the movie The Matrix? That was 24 years ago, roughly, right? It's very symbolic of what is happening now. And Neo, the character Neo in The Matrix, he didn't know that he was trapped in the Matrix. He doesn't know that he was like stuck in this reality construct that was not real. It was like made up in a sense. So that's where we are. Humanity's at this place of asking what is really real. What I'm hearing and seeing on the news does not make me feel good. Obviously, that's not real, because the truth will set you free. The truth will bring you joy and love. Everything that's based in fear will cause more anxiety and fear and worry. So just remember that. Whenever we tell our students, our fans, whenever you go into a place of not being grounded or going unfocused, not being in your center, you're stuck in the matrix. And all you got to do is remember, oh, I'm stuck in the matrix. Let's pull out of that energy and back into what is true for me. So that might be a very big question for some of you, but it's the question that you have to ask now is like, what is true for me? If doing this summit on resiliency is my truth, then that's what I do. That's my calling. And it brings me joy. So I must be on my path. So the other thing is, once you understand, well, what's not real, then you can withdraw your energy from that. So think of it this way. Anything that has caused you pain in your life that's still unresolved came from a place of fear. And there's a way out of that. And Buddha taught that. Although the way that they teach in Buddhism, to me, is not correct or it's not accurate, but there is a way out of suffering. And once you understand the nature of suffering versus the nature of who you really are, which is peace and joy and inspiration, bliss, all this good stuff that we strive for, that's our true nature. So whenever we're not experiencing that, oh, I must have one foot in the matrix. Let me pull my foot out of the matrix. So symbolically, it can be that simple. Now, when we guide people into the higher levels of consciousness, so I was not trained to do what I do, how I teach. This was all something that came from within. And this is the understanding we have for other people, right? Don't copy what I do. Well, you can use it as a guideline for sure, protocols and stuff. But I always hold a space when I work with people, whether it's groups, a retreat, one-to-one, that they already know everything. And I see them as the light. I see them as an expression of the oneness. And so I talk to that person from that place, not from the ego place, but from the higher soul level place where we make connections with people. And so everything that we do is addressed to the higher consciousness. Does that make sense? So we tell people, when you have a disagreement with someone, you go into meditation, you the soul, the being, you go to the higher dimensions, you connect up with the soul, the spirit of that person, and you communicate exactly what you want to communicate on that level. And then you can have the physical conversation. But you can't do it the other way around. It has to go from the inner place, the soul place, and then it'll manifest physically in relationships and interaction, or career changes, or new relationships, or whatever it is. There's always got to come from that higher dimension. So this is what we help people to remember. And I tell people, we're not necessarily teaching anything new, but if you want to be spontaneous and have an open throat chakra and be able to use all of your psychic senses in a natural way, yeah, then come study. Sure, we can work on issues, we can work on challenges and problems, but we always ask, if they don't know, what is your calling and how are you are serving? And I can kind of like mirror back to people like how they serve, and they may not be aware of how they're serving. And I can kind of tell just by through my intuition, you know, how psychic they are, how developed they are, how open they are, especially to new ideas and new approaches. We love working with those kind of people because, you know, it's like, it's very joyful when you work with people that, hey, are open to anything and everything, right? As you know, they don't have any restrictions in their mental body of like, oh, it's got to be this way or it's got to be that way, or like you're cuckoo nuts. But I tell people, and these are the star seeds that we work with, the indigos, the new millennials. You don't want to be normal. In fact, when they call you weird, that's a compliment. In the quantum, that's a compliment. Weirdness.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think it's beautiful that you're really talking about, we're all like, we all came here with our own unique calling or our own unique gifts. And I love that you said, you can use what I do as a guideline, but you really have to step into your way of being that really does come from the essence of your soul. That is the truth, right? And I think that is beautiful how you talked about that and how you highlighted that. I do want to stay on that topic, but when people work with you, I love that you said that you mirror to them what their calling is. Can you talk a little bit more about that so that so that people can, you know, they can experience you, and two, I also think that we all are all a mirror for everybody. So if you could just elaborate a little bit more about that, I would love that.
So there's an other aspect to tapping into your calling. And this, whatever brings you joy. Whenever you do your calling, you are radiating healing presence to the world automatically. There's a saying, and we can speak about quantum theory in a way. So what happens here in this part of the universe affects the whole universe. So your thoughts today are affecting everything on the planet in a way, in the galaxy. So if you have thoughts of peace and joy and all of that, that's helping all of creation. You don't have to do anything really. But here's the thing. When we understand that our suffering, we've carried our suffering up to this present moment as we speak right now. We've carried our suffering from either our early childhood or past lives. Now, this incarnation is a time where we can be free of the past that we're dragging with us. Well, think of it as some symbology. You're like the seeker that's walking the path, and you've got this big knapsack that's full of stuff that you're carrying on your shoulders. That's your burden and your sufferings. So we can let that go now. We can actually just let go of that sack of stuff, other people's pain, ancestral pain, early childhood pain, birthing trauma, divorce trauma, addiction trauma, whatever it is, doesn't matter really. But we have the opportunity now to literally drop it, the whole thing, and to move forward. When we understand that we're dragging, whatever we're dragging from the past, that's creating anxiety, suffering, insomnia, digestive issues, back pain, migraine headaches. Those are all still representative of attachments that from stuff that hasn't been healed. So how we work is we hold this. I mean, we just do naturally. We hold this place of transformation for people so that anything can happen. So the way that I feel it energetically, it's just a very open space, a very open space. It has no judgments, has no confinements, it has no limitations. It's like totally open-ended for people to experience. And we hold the idea that people will experience exactly what they are ready to receive and nothing more. So we don't force anything on people, right? We always say, we can help you with your next step, right? Because that's all you can do really is your next step, right? You can't go from A to Z, as speaking of enlightenment, without preparation of all that in between, right? So we're always mindful of how all these little steps create big changes in your life. Little steps, very important. Daily things that you do for yourself. So getting back, so we're going to have this retreat next year, my friend and I, in this beautiful place here in Sedona. And I can already, ever since actually I agreed to my friend's idea of doing a Sedona retreat for 5 days, I felt into the energy of that. And it's an amazing energy, even though we haven't even created the sales page yet, which should be done in about a week or so. But I'm feeling this retreat is going to be so profound for people, as well as myself and my friend. And we're holding this space. This is just an example. We're holding this space of unlimited transformational healing experiences, beautiful out-of-body experiences, experience of your soul, your I am presence, your guides, your guardian angels, whatever it is. That's all open-ended for people to experience. And just tuning into that energy just brings me a lot of joy. It's just like, wow, man, I can't wait. But this is what we do. We hold this space so that people can just like move into it in a sense without any effort. So what we try to teach is not techniques necessarily, not processes necessarily. Exercises, yes, we always throw in exercises. That's homework assignments. That's always good. But we look at people, if you look at people as already healed and they're just coming to like go through the motions of being healed, well, that's pretty cool, right? I'll give you an example. Greg Braden did this video. He might have done it in China because it had some Chinese doctors there, and this patient, I think it was Chinese, and they had this tumor somewhere in their inside their body. I don't know if it was like a gallbladder tumor or stomach tumor or whatever. So the monks that were there were several monks there, and I believe the doctors, they were chanting already gone, already gone, already gone, already gone, already gone for 20 minutes. They had some kind of a scanner hooked up to the person's abdomen to depict the picture of the tumor, and it was shrinking, it was shrinking, it shrunk down to nothing. So what does that tell you? It tells you the power of our voice and our intentions. Well, is very powerful, right? So if the patient even was in this state of already gone, already gone, already gone, like already healed, not there, was open enough, and the chanting, the auditory healing vibrations, the magnetic vibrations of them chanting affected that tumor to a place of where it went into non-existence. So if that can happen, we could do that same level within ourselves. So if all the stress that you're feeling right now doing this summit interview, if it wasn't there, how would you feel?
I'm like, I would feel amazing.
Yeah.
Ah, but you know, in all honesty, like there is a lot that goes into a summit. There's a lot of logistics that goes into it and really having to stay on top of things. And of course, I like things to be, perfect, which we don't live in a perfect world, but my idea of perfect. But in all honesty, even among the stress that comes from it, I do find joy in it. And I get so excited about meeting new people and hearing their stories and just learning about them. And I always talk when I work with people, I'm like, you need just to find what lights your fire. And it could be, like you said, it could be as simple as maybe it is doing healing, or maybe it's just sitting in silence for 5 minutes that makes your heart joyful. But like you said, the way that I release the stress is I go back to thinking about the connections that I get to make and the community that I also get to be a part of. And that's where my joy is. And the stress, I'm like, where did it go? It's gone. So um yeah, I love it. And I love the fact that you talk about holding that beautiful healing container and just allowing people to just gently step into it to really discover that we do have everything inside of us to really do our own profound healing. And you know part of what we do is we just hold that safe gentle space for them to just uh you know step into their vulnerability without fear. And I think that's part of the magnificence of the work that we do. And truthfully, I do believe that everybody's a healer just in the ways that you said, whether you're a manager of an office or you are a healer, or even if you're a Western medicine doctor, like you do healing in the way that is unique to you, that you share with people. And those that need you will find you. And so the information and the wisdom and the inspiration that you shared today has been so it's been so profound to me just to listen to it. So I can only imagine what the viewers are experiencing. So thank you so much for taking your time to just share your wisdom. Uh, Before we go into the free gift that you're giving, is there any other messages or additional wisdom or anything that you would like to share with everyone?
Let's do a little short attunement. We can call it an activation, a meditation, attunement. This is what we always do in the beginning of the work, no matter what level it is. So we always do a protocol to create sacred space. And you will find that when you do this, your day will go much more in a flowing kind of a manner versus if you didn't do it. And when you start doing a daily practice, if you miss it, you're going to notice the difference energetically, and you'll want to go back to doing it on a regular basis. So let's set the tone for the rest of the day. So what we're going to do is just going to bring our awareness to the breath. So we come into the here and the now. So just slowly breathe in through the nose. And as you exhale, imagine that all the muscles that are tense in your body are relaxing. They're relaxing from constriction to expansion and relaxation, especially the muscles in your forehead, your jaw, your fingers, your toes, and your calves. Imagine you're breathing very gently into the light as the light, and you're just simply letting go on the exhale, just letting go. Coming into this now moment. And reimagine for a moment that you've had, this is a visualization coming sort of from the comedy team. They like to keep things light and funny. And humor is a very powerful tool, as you know, a very powerful healer. So imagine that you've been sloshing upon the earth your whole life, sloshing, whatever that brings up for you, sloshing in the mud, walking in quicksand, walking in the bogs and the marshes, you know, that feeling of heaviness, of effort, of trying to do the right thing, trying to be the right person. And you've been walking in the marshes, so to speak, all of your life. But then all of a sudden, you look up from where you're walking and you see this field of energy that's glimmering and shining and effervescent. This represents your version of new earth that you are moving into, your new reality construct that's outside of time and space and the old matrix of illusions. And you're stepping out of the bogs, out of the marshes. You're shaking off your feet, all the mud and heaviness. And you're going to reconnect with this sphere of energy that is called your version of New Earth. And in this new version of New Earth are all the many possibilities of success for your life, for your healing, for your well-being. And as you connect deeper into this sphere of energy that is very bright and iridescent and crystalline like, you are giving yourself permission to move into a new way of being, into a new way of behaving upon the planet, a new way of seeing the world, of perceiving self and humanity. You're moving into a place where there's no strain, there's no tension, there's no stress, there's only flow, love, and support. Your guides are there, your inner teachers are there, your guardian angels are there, beautiful beings of light called your support team are there in your new earth. Now imagine that you're going to bring this energy back to your body, your physical body, and the room that you are in right now. Bring this energy back to your body. And you're going to put the information as data into your storage area in your crown chakra for use later on when you need it. And imagine that you are allowing this new vibrational field to encompass your aura or to overlap your aura, your field. That there's this new energy coming into your chakra system and coming into your brain, your sacred heart center, into your spine. And you're bringing back to your body the awareness of I am here, I am now, I am, and I am a divine creator manifesting in form in union with all of my spiritual guides, my high frequency guides, with the true oneness, with pure creator energy. And bring that energy all the way down into your feet, into the soles of your feet. Wiggle your toes a little bit. Stretch your ankles, stretch your arms and your wrists. And just simply allow this energy to naturally integrate in your life in divine timing. Do this exercise every day or a variation of it every day. work with your intuition and with your knowingness. So as you come into the now moment, let's take another slow, deep breath. And invoke, I am here, I am now, I am. Okay, so this is an example of how we teach and model spontaneous transmissions. So these activations are never pre-thought out. They're never from an outline. They're always in the moment, according to what people can receive, according to the audience, according to the hostess of the summit.
Wow, that was beautiful just to feel that energy. And I like, it makes me want to bring it into this here and now.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's I can talk about my experience, but it just made it very inspiring to like just step into me, who I am. Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with me and everyone else. So from there we will dive into your free gift, which is very, very generous. And so your free gift is the Way to Peace package, and it's 6 total courses, each at an hour and a half a piece. And normally this retails for $299, and you're graciously giving this to everybody for free. Would you like to talk more about what it is that they get in this amazing package?
well, we did this online live course a few years ago, and we made it up of 6 modules. So basically, here's what we wrote. Many seekers are hungry for the knowledge and wisdom of the ancients and how they can apply ancient truths into their daily lives. Do you know why you are here? Emphasized. Are you seeking clarity of mission purpose? Are you ready to establish a spiritual practice and learn the art of meditation and self-healing? Question mark. If you are ready to embrace eternal peace in every fiber of your being and are ready to learn the art of receiving, giving, and the way to peace, then this course is for you. If you are ready to LOVE, living one vibrational energy, and are willing to step forward to receive your gifts of knowing and being, then the time is now. And this is a 3-month course. Well, when it was given, it was a 3-month course given, I believe, every 2 weeks for 3 months. So this course is designed for you, the way shower, the star seed, the world server, the gifted one, the one that didn't fit in, the black sheep of the family, star seeds, indigos. It's meant for you to remember that which you are in the field of grace, in the company of heaven and earth, so you can restart and reboot your divine computer. That's your brain, that's your body, the soul, into new beginnings and miracles. Miracles are your natural birthright. You are as God created you. So in this course, we build a foundation for your spiritual practice. Foundation consists of rebuilding and recalibrating your core, your brain, nervous system, endocrine system, your organs, meridians, and nadis, your magnetic field, and subtle bodies. This is a highly technical work and is likened to building the scaffolding of a building. The housing unit needs to be strong enough to withstand storms and unexpected events like what's going on the planet this year. The photon energies, those are those Christed energies that have been coming into our galaxy, let's see, for about the last 30 years. These are very high frequency Christed vibrations. So the photon energies are becoming very intense and magnified. And so your foundation needs to be able to handle the intensity and higher frequencies of new earth transformation. The quality of your ascension process depends on a strong structure, so your journey can be one of joy and love rather than conflict, confusion, and doubt. So now we begin a course correction that will change your life forever. Are you ready? So there's 6 modules. And And everybody's going to experience these module activations differently according to what they are needing. So in module 1, we built the foundation with Gaia, the Earth Mother, and the elemental kingdom. In module 2, there was work on brain recalibration, your endocrine system, which is very important, especially your pineal pituitary glands. Module 3, spiritual anatomy. You received a deep emotional purging technique that works with your solar plexus and releasing trauma that's been held in your solar plexus. Your spiritual anatomy, those are your higher subtle bodies, your causal body, your Buddhic body, your logoic atmic bodies, all of that, higher dimensional frequencies. And then module 4, clearing your field, releasing of pain and judgments, other people's thought forms and emotions. So this was a big release module here. Protection for electromagnetic pollution and stress. Oh, that is a big one. Module 4, there's a lot of cleansing done to your organs, your reproductive glands, your brain. Yeah, that's a big cleansing module. And module 5, we work more with the brain and clearing blockages, injuries, trauma, brain reset, strengthen the mind-body connection to new earth. Module 6, body restoration, life reset, adrenal glands reset and recharge, inner wisdom and knowledge, chakra system reset, divine connection to source and from source. So that's that Way to Peace package in a nutshell.
Wow, that's a very generous gift. And if viewers, if you resonated with anything and everything that Kenji's talked about today, the link of this will be down below the video. It will also be in the featured speakers center so that you can have access to it. I highly suggest that you really do it and really connect with it, and then continue to connect with Kenji even after that. So thank you so much for offering that free gift. And and most importantly, honestly, from my heart to yours, so much gratitude. Just thank you so much for being part of Stories of Resilience. The information you shared today was so beautiful and so insightful, and I know it's going to touch so many in the most magnificent ways possible. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all of our viewers today that really took the time to just hear this incredible information. And until next time, everyone, thank you for coming.